The White House again insisting that the president did nothing wrong on his phone call with the Ukrainian president after House Democrats voted to formalize proceedings on Thursday. This as President Trump tells the Washington Examiner, quote, "This is over a phone call that is a good call at some point. I'm going to sit down perhaps as a fireside chat on live television. I will read the transcript of the call because people have to hear it. When you read it, it's a straight call." Okay, joining me now is Crystal Hayes. She's a Washington correspondent and congressional reporter for USA Today. I want to start here. Lauren Blanchard just reported on this. Last night, House GOP Conference Chair Liz Cheney from Wyoming wrote a letter to Speaker Pelosi calling on the Speaker to immediately release transcripts of depositions that have already taken place before or behind closed doors since September 24th when the impeachment inquiry began. So do you think Speaker Pelosi will comply? If she doesn't, will this diminish the potency and relevancy of the upcoming open hearings?
Well, I mean, we've heard from House Chairman Adam Schiff that those depositions, those transcripts of all those private depositions could be released as early as next week. We might start to see some of them. I don't know if Speaker Pelosi will necessarily be responding to Liz Cheney, but they've set out to say that they're going to be releasing these transcripts from the get-go.
Plan's already in the works, is what you're saying.
Yes, definitely.
So, Crystal, meanwhile, the Democrats are planning to call back some of the same people who testified in those closed-door sessions back to testify in the public hearing. So do you think this will quell the claim that Democrats have been working in secret?
I think so, but I think a lot of those arguments about the process could linger, especially as we hold these public hearings in the House Intelligence Committee, because one of the main complaints by Republicans has been that, you know, the president and his counsel have not been able to question or offer any sort of defense. And in these hearings that they're planning to hold in the House Intelligence Committee, that's going to remain the case.
But if, as the public impeachment testimonies are about to begin, the public part of this, if Republican lawmakers plan to just hammer the process, providing no defense for the president, I mean, how will that read in open hearings?
Yeah, not as well as it has right now. Once the public is clued in on everything that's happened, especially as we start to get a sense of what happened behind, I mean, it's been 100 hours of depositions. Once the public gets these transcripts, once we start to have these hearings, that argument is just not going to really connect with Americans, even if it is right now. And so it's going to be really imperative for Republicans, especially in the House Intelligence Committee hearings where the president and his counsel won't have an active role. They're really going to have to plan a strategic defense of the president in order to kind of, you know, make the case.
And how might the open hearings work against the Democrats?
Well, depending on what we heard, what happened in all of these closed-door testimonies. I mean, we know top lines from some of these, but there's a lot that we don't know. And each day that we've had these testimonies, Republicans have said that, you know, some of this testimony could work in their favor. We just saw the last one with Morrison. You know, he didn't necessarily believe that anything that the president did was necessarily illegal. So depending on what some of these witnesses said in those testimonies, it's going to really kind of change how we've viewed impeachment. I think this is the next phase, and, you know, it's going to be a long phase, but it's going to change a lot of how everything has been going from here on out.
Let's circle back to the top now. President Trump told the Washington Examiner Thursday that he might release the transcript as a fireside chat.
Provide the climax of a decade of international immorality. Powerful and resourceful gangsters have banded together to make war upon the whole human race. Their challenge has now been flung at the United States of America.
So for context, President Trump is channeling our 32nd president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who for 11 years, just for context, from 1933 to 1944 during World War II and at a time of uncertainty, would address the country on evening radio. We just played some of it. This was to silence rumors and explain his policies. President Roosevelt was said to have exuded self-assurance to the American public. So how would a fireside chat from President Trump pan out?
Well, we don't know how or if these will actually happen, but if they do, they're likely to be very, very different than what you just heard from Roosevelt. You know, this was a time of the Great Depression, offering Americans reassurance, and President Trump is likely more likely to offer a defense for himself, not only reading this transcript, but also, you know, probably a speech outlining that he believes that he did nothing wrong and this impeachment inquiry is a hoax. But the problem is, you know, as we all know, is the president likes to veer off script. He often likes to ad-lib many things in his rallies, from speeches. And if he does do that, it could pose a problem if, you know, he could lead to some more headlines that might not be so flattering. And the stakes really couldn't be higher for the president at this particular moment. So anything he says, you know, it could really be used against him in this impeachment inquiry.
Finally and quickly, though, regardless of the format, will we see an actual transcript, not just the summary that has been released thus far regarding that July 25 phone call?
Democrats don't seem too interested in harping down on the content that was not in that call, because the little details that we have learned that were not included in the summary didn't really change the context of the call. But I'm sure that they would love to have one if one does exist, though this summary was kind of compiled from a variety of notes. So that remains to be seen. But I'm sure Democrats would love to get a more fuller idea of that call.
We will continue to watch. Crystal Hayes, thank you.
Thank you.